How good will LSU be against the SEC? We will find out starting on Saturday on the road against Mississippi State. We bring in Matt Moscona from ESPN Radio there in Baton Rouge and New Orleans. You can pick him up right there on his show after further review, 3 to 6 Central Time each and every weekday. Matt, how you doing today?
Good, Mark. It's nice to be talking about an SEC game. Conference games always seem more entertaining.
Yeah, BYU was a bit of a letdown. Not much resistance there. And, of course, Chattanooga was Chattanooga. So here we've got LSU, Mississippi State. Man, the Tigers dominate this series 23-2 in the last 25 meetings. But, hey, Dak Prescott pulled out a win in 2014, and it's been rather tight the last few times.
Yeah, Mississippi State, the last time LSU went to Starkville, State had a shot for a walk-off field goal at the gun. The kid just pushed it to the right. And then last year in Baton Rouge, it was a game that LSU controlled really throughout. And then late in the fourth quarter, State put together a very quick touchdown drive, got the ball right back, scored again in 2 plays. And all of a sudden, State has the ball with a minute to play, and you're biting your fingernails thinking, are they going to blow this game? And Arden Key comes up with a strip sack to save the game for LSU. But for whatever reason, the last 3 times these two teams have played, the margin has been 5, 2, and 3 points. So while LSU has dominated the series, the last 3 have been really close.
Now, BYU hasn't shown us a whole lot since the LSU game with a loss to Utah in which they could barely muster up any scoring. So maybe BYU's just having a bad year. Maybe they're awful, and that win was less impressive than we thought. We know less about Mississippi State because they didn't even play somebody that was supposed to be pretty good. So they come in after downing Louisiana Tech and Charleston Southern, 106-21 combined score. We know Nick Fitzgerald is the centerpiece of the offense, and he could do nothing on the ground against LSU last year, and that pretty much was the key to victory then and should be now.
I actually think the key is going to be what LSU's offense can do. We'll talk about State's offense, though. I am interested in this game, but I am a believer in what Dave Aranda is doing, and I'm a believer in LSU's athleticism. LSU's going to get Arden Key back for this game. And remember, the only year where State offensively really challenged LSU was that Dak Prescott year. And I'm a believer that if you're Mississippi State, you may every decade have that generational type talent that comes through and the stars align where, if you remember, that 2014 team was a veteran team. I think they had 4 or 5 seniors on the offensive line. Josh Robinson, the running back, was a senior. Dylan Day, their center, was a senior, 4-year starter. They had Bernardrick McKinney in the middle of that defense. I mean, it was just a senior-laden team, and all the stars aligned, and they were really, really good. They got to number 1 in the country. I look at this Mississippi State team, and while I think Fitzgerald is a good player, he was an option quarterback in high school, actually played some defense, or they thought he'd play defense in college. He never really developed as a passer in high school because that wasn't what he did in high school. So that's been slow to develop in his time at Mississippi State, and it's been evident the first couple of weeks as well. And there's no Fred Ross, who, of course, is State's all-time leading receiver who graduated a year ago. And there's no Josh Robinson. There's no real running threat that scares you aside from Fitzgerald. I would think if you're Dave Aranda in this game, you replicate your game plan against Lamar Jackson in the bowl game a year ago, or what John Chavis did so successfully against Johnny Manziel those years when LSU played Texas A&M, where you just create the little pocket around him, use your athleticism to contain the quarterback, and try to make him beat you throwing the ball. And I don't think Nick Fitzgerald can do that, which is why I think for State, their best chance is win a low-scoring game, and that means the onus is on their defense to slow the LSU offense.
Yeah, if you were going to list every quarterback playing FBS football and rate them on mobility, Nick Fitzgerald would be relatively high, but he's not a dynamic, like unbelievably escapable player. And they faced that, meaning LSU against Louisville, as you mentioned last year, and shut down Lamar Jackson to nothing practically. You bring up these Mississippi State names, and it was only 3 years ago, and it somehow seems like it was 20 years ago when you bring up Prescott. They also had Richie Brown on defense. Yeah, the bowling ball, Josh Robinson, and those guys that were pretty good and had that run. And Mississippi had that focus of college football there for a few weeks with Ole Miss and Mississippi State, of course, rising to number 1. And they only lost at Bama by a score in Tuscaloosa.